Hello again to all subscribers and listeners of this channel. I just wanted to post my first official movie review. I am reviewing Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. And here's my take on the DC film that pits the two greatest DC characters against each other. So here goes. I'm breaking my review down into 3 sessions and a conclusion. First, we start out with the bad of the film. Then go to the good things about the film, and finally the things that were just interesting. And then I'll end with a conclusion. First, the bad. I'll start with 1. As many have said, the flashback scene of the death of Bruce's parents can be very overdone, but to me, the way it was done in this movie was a bit better. They glossed right through it at the very beginning and they got out of the way, so it didn't feel too overbearing. But considering the subject matter of the plot, it still feels like Martha and Thomas Wayne's death scene could have been skipped altogether. 2. Kind of a minor thing, but Lois is a redhead. It's not really that big of a deal, and when I say Lois, I mean Lois Lane. It just seems odd that she's redheaded instead of a brunette, but I don't know, whatever. Not really bad per se, just kind of odd, I guess. But maybe I'm being too neurotic. Number 3. Just like with a lot of movies, there are a couple of scenes where the CGI seems a tad overdone. Especially towards the last half of the final battle against that monster. But that's a lot of films nowadays, so whatever. Number 4. One thing that I'm definitely confused about and that I still don't get is who was the guy in the terrorist scene when Lois Lane was being kidnapped? Was he working for Lex Luthor or was he part of the CIA? I still don't get what that was about, so I might have to rewatch it, or someone else who has seen it, let me know what that was, because I didn't get that. Now, number 5. This one's kind of major. Okay, the actor, Jesse Eisenberg. He comes across as a good actor. He played his part well for his craft, but no matter what he did, I wasn't quite feeling him as Lex Luthor. For my taste, he made Lex Luthor a little bit too hyper, and I guess because I grew up, I'm in my mid-20s now, so I grew up watching Justice League, JLU, and Superman Taz, and Batman Taz. So I'm way more used to the brooding, calm, more calculating, and I would say psychologically intimidating Lex Luthor. Jesse did okay with more generic villain traits to me, but his hyperactive version of Lex Luthor, for me, it didn't quite work. He definitely seems like a good actor, but I'm not quite sure that this was the right casting for that role. But that's just my opinion. Number 6. Again, not necessarily a bad thing, but I do notice that both Batman and Superman, especially Superman, seem to be much darker, more brooding characters in live action. But that's not that surprising considering live action has a different feel to it. So that probably makes sense to make the characters more intense that way compared to the animated series and the animated movies. So, where am I? Number 7. The one terrorist scene where Superman is in the Capitol building. Okay, somebody explain this to me. Superman has laser vision and he has super speed and super hearing. So, can somebody break down why he couldn't deflect or fly the explosive device on the legless dude's chair out of the Capitol? Then maybe I missed something, but it seems like he should have been able to stop that. He shouldn't be able to hear it, catch it, and deflect it away from the building long before it exploded. So, I don't know what that was about, but that whole thing seemed kind of off. Number 8. Superman has selective hearing. So he couldn't hear the ticking detonator in the Capitol building. He can't hear Batman sneak up on him. He can't hear Lex creating the monster inside that building with the pool of water or whatever it was. but he can hear Lois struggling to breathe towards the end. Okay. Number 9. Now, as far as Batman using guns to kill enemies in the desert scene, I get that. That was a dream sequence, so I get why that makes sense, and that Superman apparently rules the planet Earth at that time, and Batman has to go all out to try to stop him, even if that means he has to kill. So it works in the dream sequence. But in the real fight scene, when he is trying to save Superman's adopted mother, Martha, that seemed kind of off and a little bit disturbing, that he actually was using some of the guys' guns to shoot at them. And he did do that every so often, which seemed kind of off. And maybe I'm missing something, but that seems like a huge contrast to Batman's stance on guns throughout most of the media that I've grown up watching. So, and did he shoot any of those guys dead? I'm not sure. They just kind of went through the fight scene where he's shooting, and I'm not sure if he killed the guys or just hurt them, or I don't know. That was kind of confusing. Number 10. Okay, this is a major plot point that just, it needs to be explained somehow. I don't get it. But here's 10. What was the creature at the end? Was it a mutated Zod? Was it a clone of Zod? Was it supposed to be a resurrected Doomsday using extracted Kryptonian DNA that was like buried somewhere deep in Zod's body? I don't get it. I still don't get what was that supposed to be. Also, why was Wonder Woman able to cut his hand off? There's definitely a scene where it looks like she hacks off his hand or cuts very deeply into his forearm. And I'm not sure she should be able to do that if that thing was part Kryptonian or whatever. That was confusing. Because doesn't that mean she could cut Superman with like that? But the creature could be killed by kryptonite, but Kryptonians are supposed to be impervious to all objects and all materials except kryptonite. But her sword did cut it. I know for a fact I saw that. So, yeah, that was, yeah. I don't know what that was, but that was confusing. Number 11, and to me, and I'm pretty sure to most people, this was the biggest flaw in the film. The biggest flaw in the film was the pacing. There was too much plot crammed together in one long film. So scenes and situations seemed to jump from one to the other dozens of times throughout the film, sometimes making it hard to like follow. Especially the jumping scenes towards the end. I said this in my review of the Dawn of Justice trailer a couple months ago, and I'll say it again here. This should have been a trilogy or even a quadrilogy. Man of Steel should have been the first one, then a Ben Affleck Batman film, a third film where they meet up and do battle, and then the fourth film that introduces Wonder Woman and the monster and Lex Luthor's ultimate goal at the end. That would have been a much better, more easy flow of the storyline into the Justice League films that they're going to be making in the future. That to me would have been much better pacing. This just felt way too forced together. There's no other way I can put it. Number 12. The last thing that just is like, okay, who wrote the screenplay? Because it's not that it's horrible, but just too many things didn't make sense. He should have stabbed him in the back, not in the front. He shouldn't have gone for the chest. He could have easily gone for the back of him. If he had did that, it probably is a chance he wouldn't have gotten stabbed by the monster's spikes. He wouldn't die. And the trio could easily form the Justice League just fine without Superman having to die. So no need for a Superman death at all. That just felt kind of, his death felt kind of forced. It didn't really feel like it had the impact that I think they were going for. And the obvious problem with Clark Kent somehow goes missing. And then if Superman isn't all the way dead, then they have to explain how Clark Kent came back. And that felt convoluted at the end. So again, that to me was just another major thing that came from this film feeling kind of rushed and crammed together. So those were the 12 major things that I thought were kind of flawed or kind of off about the film. So now the good. 1. The costume design kicked ass. Batman's suit looked cold-blooded. Superman's outfit was pretty much the same now as it was in Man of Steel. I like this outfit way better than the generic Superman outfit that he had in the previous films. Wonder Woman's design was beastly as hell. So, as far as I'm concerned, good job costume design team. Number 2, Gal Gadot's acting. Makeup and special effects did a surprisingly good job of making Wonder Woman look powerful and imposing. Me, like a lot of other people, thought Gal Gadot was like too small. We weren't sure of her acting ability. But as far as I'm concerned, she pulled it off. One thing that they made a very small, it was tiny but easily overlooked mistake was throughout the entire film, at least to me, it seemed kind of obvious that she was wearing high heels, and they didn't do a good enough job of concealing her high heels in certain scenes. They should have done a better job of concealing that. But other than that, I think her acting, the design, the makeup, the special effects, pretty good job with Wonder Woman. Also, another thing, the design for the Tumbler or Batmobile, whatever you call it, and the design for the jet that Batman was flying in, nice, very nice. So, next, number 3, the fight scenes, to me, they were all solid. Well put together, well choreographed. Even though there are major mistakes with Superman's fight when it comes to his abilities kind of fading in and out or going away and coming back, the way the fight scenes were choreographed was still nicely done, nonetheless. The actual fight between Batman and Superman, with the handful of flaws, just a tiny few flaws, was still pretty good. I still liked it. The fight where Batman saves Martha was really good, even though he was shooting at people, which I don't think he should have done in that way. It still was pretty well choreographed. Oddly enough, one of the weaker fights in the film was the fight against the monster. But I'll break that down later on. Number 4. Superman gets blasted by a nuclear missile to the face. Well done. Really nice. Really like that one. That was one of the better CGI scenes in the movie, in my opinion. Right before he gets blasted and when Superman gets in the face from the nuke in the Earth's upper atmosphere. That was cold-blooded. The rest of the fight scene after that with the Zod monster or whatever it was, to me, it starts to get a little bit weaker and odd looking. It starts to get kind of wonky. And if I remember, I'm going to try to put that in the last part of this video. So, on to the next one. Number 5, Alfred, awesome character in this movie. Supportive, intelligent. Although me personally, I like kind of the snarkiness he has throughout certain parts of the film when he's like kind of not arguing, but when he's having discussions with Bruce about what they should be doing when it comes to fighting crime in the city. So Alfred's character I liked. Number 6, in my opinion, all the acting was solid. Ben Affleck did well as Batman. And personally, I think I could see him playing Batman in future films just fine. As well as Gal Gadot for a standalone Wonder Woman film, I could see that. Henry Cavill in a future Justice League film, I could see that also. I think they should stay with these 3 and keep working forward with these 3 actors for any future Batman or Justice League films or Superman films. Now, on to the interesting stuff. Not necessarily bad or good, but just something that I thought was interesting when I noticed it. I'm pretty sure Clark isn't dead. He never got stabbed by actual kryptonite. He got stabbed by one of the spikes from the monster, so he shouldn't have passed out anyway. So again, that death feels kind of forced. It's kind of obvious that that's not an actual death, but whatever. I mentioned this earlier, and I'm still confused. Can Wonder Woman harm a Kryptonian in this particular take on the DC universe? Because last time I checked, she's not supposed to be able to do that. But in this film, like I said, she slices either the monster's hand off or slices through the monster's forearm sometime during the fight. And if the monster's Kryptonian, she's not supposed to be able to do that? I'm not sure. When did Bruce get the kryptonite? They skipped over that entire thing. It never shows when he actually was able to steal it from Lex Luthor. He was about to steal it until he got interrupted by Superman. Then a couple scenes later, he just happens to have it. They skipped that whole entire sequence. When Bruce was looking through Diana's secret profile, can anybody break down what the WCIA was? I wasn't quite sure what that was. Anybody know? Sorry if it's a dumb question, but that confused me. I like the actor that played Alfred. To me, it was good casting. The one thing that was odd to me is that in this particular film, Alfred and Bruce look a tad too similar. They look like they're related in this film, which I thought was kind of odd. The cameos of Neil deGrasse Tyson, Nancy Grace, Anderson Cooper, and Soledad O'Brien. They weren't good or bad. They were just awkward. They didn't really take away from the film or add anything to it. They were just weird. That's the best way I could put it. The part where they showed the film footage of the Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman was good, and I actually think that was a good way they kind of did that, but it still feels like something that shouldn't have been in this particular movie. That whole sequence seems like it would have been better in what I call it, a series, or in the trilogy or quadrilogy of movies. That would have been much better placed that way. Another thing, did anyone think that Lex Luthor's hair looked better in the film than in the trailer, even though they're the same scenes? Or is it just me? And the last thing, the fight with the monster was really good in the beginning, up until Superman gets blasted in the face with the nuke. Then after that, when he comes back down onto Earth and the monster's fighting him, Wonder Woman, and Batman all at the same time, it just feels like it goes kind of downhill a little bit. The CGI looks a little bit wonky. The fight choreography looks a little bit off. Certain things don't make any sense. And then there's the forced death scene that looks just doesn't feel all the way authentic. So it's like the monster's role in the film was really awesome from the very first half. Then the second half of the monster fight, it just feels like it kind of just drops off a little bit. So at least that's the way I looked at it. So in conclusion, I think I'm in agreement with most of the audience. I find the critics being way too hard on the film. This wasn't boring or horrible or even bad. It was a decent film that suffered from those three major flaws. And those major flaws were not enough consistency with the characters' behaviors, too much jumping around, and not enough explanation for how things occurred in the plot. And that was because there was too much of a plot crammed into this one film. This should have been stretched out into a 3 or 4 part DC film series. Then you go into the Justice League. That would have been better. So ultimately, I say it's a decent, even mildly good film that could have been much better if there was much more attention to pacing and explaining what was going on. So me personally, I would give it a 7 out of 5 out of 10. And that's just my personal opinion of it. Not the best film, but not really that bad either. Just relatively decent, solid. 7 out of 5. So please leave your comments and share your thoughts. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Comment, rate, and subscribe, and share. That's all I got for now. Peace.